Mr. Ridley, we talk about the bridges and the dangers there, and we all know that. We know that certainly from our Oklahoma experiences. In fact, we have in Oklahoma City, one of the concerns I have on this delay is what's going to happen to that crosstown. We have chunks of rock that are falling down. It very likely could kill somebody, and there isn't a lot of time. So there is a lot of danger there. But do you make a conscious evaluation of the relative dangers of other things too? There are other dangers in the highway bill and the highway construction. Do you have any comments about that, on what you do to try to address the thing that all of us feel is the most significant, and that is dangers to health or human life?
Certainly, Senator, a DOT director or a state excuse me, has to balance the program. And let me give you some examples. The tragedy that took place in Minnesota, our hearts were we went out for them because of what took place in 2002 in Oklahoma. But we need to realize last year those 13 people that were killed with that collapse was terrible, a terrible tragedy. At the same time, last year, over 40,000 people were killed on our highways. In my state, on the roads that I'm responsible for, last year over 500 people were killed on the roads that I'm responsible for, none of them in a bridge collapse. We have a real problem, not only just in Oklahoma, but in all states. 25% of our roads in Oklahoma are critical or inadequate. That means they don't have shoulders on them, poor horizontal and vertical sight distance, bad geometrics, not recovery area for an errant vehicle so that they can bring their car under control or bring it back up on the highway. In 25% of our roads, those that are critical or inadequate, over 50% of all accidents occur. So we know that there's problems that we can correct, but without the funds we cannot. So you balance the problems with our bridges along with the problems with our roadways to develop a plan. Federal government provides us about 18% of the federal program is tied to bridges under the BR program. We spend about 27% on bridges. So it's not that we're not spending money on bridges, and other states do as well. But you have to marriage it with everything else. A lot of things that happen with the fatality accidents across the country are certainly driver error. But I don't think that a 16-year-old girl driving on a two-lane highway at night in a rainstorm drops a wheel off the edge line where there is no shoulder, no recovery area, poor horizontal and vertical sight distance, that the penalty for that mistake ought to be personal injury or death, but that's certainly what can happen. We see it every day on our system across the country. So you can't just focus on bridges oblivious to everything else. You have to balance it with all aspects of transportation, and certainly safety is a prime consideration of our state, and I know it is with the other 49.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that very much. Just one last short question here. The problem that we're going to have right now if we don't get this thing through, we've got to have, and I think that Madam Chairman and I both agree on this, we've got to have this fix. We've come up with a fix that I think is good, and it's going to have to be done. Now, if it isn't, and you look at all the problems, I don't know whether you've had a chance to look to see in terms of jobs, how many of the penalties, for example. You have contracts, you've let contracts. There are penalties involved if you don't live up to if we don't live up to our part of this. It's going to cost the state of Oklahoma and the federal government penalties. There are going to be delays. There could be lawsuits. I know you've thought about all of these unintended, well, I guess, consequences, and right-of-way acquisition, all of these things. It is chaotic, and we can go on, and I just hope that this hearing will reflect that this isn't just in the state of Oklahoma, but by not doing this fix now instead of waiting until next year, the consequences are dire, in it not only in money but in lives, Madam Chairman. And I applaud you, Director Ridley, for the great job that you've done. We're truly blessed in the state of Oklahoma to have your service.